Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Bernie Sanders finally grows a spine. Recently, Bernie Sanders has been missing in action on the question of Palestine. When he was running for president, he said that aid to Israel should be conditioned on human rights abuses being eliminated in Gaza. He talked about having a courageous voice and being a new kind of leader in the region.
Israel was subjected to terrorist attacks, has every right in the world to destroy terrorism. As somebody who is 100% pro-Israel, if we are ever going to bring peace to that region which has seen so much hatred and so much war, we are going to have to treat the Palestinian people with respect and dignity.
And then October 7th happened, and he echoed the same BS talking points that every other mainstream politician has echoed. He has been a profound disappointment on the question of Israel and Palestine. Bernie Sanders has talked about destroying Hamas, and he's talked about protecting Israel's right to defend itself. And he's done it in a way that ignores that there is a complete siege happening on Gaza that has been not only ongoing, but has now been amplified since October 7th. He ignores the fact that there is a ratio of 2 civilians for every Hamas fighter that's killed. So even if Israel's saying their goal is to kill Hamas, they're still waging war on civilians. And it's been happening since October 7th. And Bernie Sanders has been quiet on the issue. In fact, he has been, frankly, cowardly on the issue. But magically, he's spoken up. And here's what he said when asked about the situation now.
At a time when some 16,000 Palestinians have been killed in the last 2 months, 2/3 of whom are women and children, and tens of thousands more have been injured. At a time when 1.8 million people, Palestinians, have been displaced from their homes and are struggling every day, have been thrown out of their homes. They don't know where they're going. They are struggling to get food and water and medical supplies and fuel just to survive. And I want you to think about what's going on with the children, a lot of children in that country. What is going on psychically, them looking up in the sky, is a bomb going to fall? Where am I spending the night? How do I get food? That's what's going on there right now. And Madam President, at a time when over 250 people have been killed in the West Bank, I'm not talking about Gaza, I'm talking about the West Bank, since October 7th, and more than 1,000 Palestinians have been driven off of their land in the West Bank. No, in the midst of all of that, I do not believe we should be appropriating over $10 billion for the right-wing extremist Netanyahu government to continue its current military approach. What the Netanyahu government is doing is immoral, it is in violation of international law, and the United States should not be complicit in those actions. Madam President, we are all clear that Hamas, a corrupt terrorist organization, began this war with their barbaric attack against Israel on October 7th. Given that reality, Israel has a right to defend itself, but it does not have, in my view, the right to wage all-out war against innocent men, women, and children, Palestinians, who had nothing to do with the Hamas attack.
First of all, Bernie, thank you for finally saying something. Thank you for acknowledging that this is not a righteous war. Thank you for acknowledging that what's going on in Gaza is awful. It should not have taken you literally 2 months to do it, but hey, I'm glad you showed up to the party. Here's the problem. Your argument suggests that initially this was a war on Hamas. It wasn't. It never was. It is very clear, and there's a report by 972 magazine that examines this, that Israel has always known when it blows up a target inside of Gaza, how many civilians are going to die too. They just didn't care. They understood that Al-Shifa Hospital and other places that they swear are headquarters for Hamas are actually just places that have sick people. There might be some Hamas people in hospitals like El Ahli and El Shifa, but these are not Hamas headquarters. These are places where sick people and babies are sitting and eventually dying. They understood from the beginning that cutting electricity and cutting fuel was going to lead to unnecessary death. They understood that moving people to areas from the north to the south and then bombing them even in those areas sometimes is all part of their strategy. And Bernie ignored it. He pretended it wasn't true. He has access to intelligence reports. He has access to some of the best foreign policy voices on his team. So, nah, Bernie, I appreciate you finally speaking up, but you ain't said enough. You ain't done enough. We need more from you, my brother. At this point, you can't just say we won't write a blank check to Israel anymore, although that's true and that is correct. What you also have to say, what you also have to do is stop refusing. Excuse me, let me do that again. 3, 2. What we need you to do is demand a ceasefire. What we need you to do is fight for an actual political solution, a diplomatic solution, an ultimate resolution to this issue that allows Palestinian people to have freedom, safety, dignity, self-determination, and justice. And you can't do that by bombing Gaza to the point where 1.7 million people are homeless, which they are. You can't do it by bombing Gaza to the point where children and babies and elderly folk have no safe quarters. You can't do that by continuing to wage war. You need to not just make this an issue of a right-wing crazy Netanyahu government, because that's how you're making it seem. You have to be very clear and honest that Gaza has been under siege since 2006. You have to use your public voice to make it very clear that what happened on October 6th, not just October 7th, was a moral atrocity. You have to make it clear that if we're going to get solutions here, we can't go back to the day before October 7th. Nah, you got to do more, Bernie Sanders. You got to call for more Bernie Sanders. You want to be the progressive voice of the Senate? You want to be the conscience of the Congress? Now is the time to exercise and articulate that conscience. And you ain't done it yet, homeboy.